Hi, my name is Shawn Jansen. I'm joined by Shawn Lynch, and this is the Shawn and Shawn Show. Second episode of the season. Shawn Lynch has gotten off his deathbed and joined us after an interesting weekend at the Lynch household.
Yeah, I was working too, so I had to fight through that, and then I had two sick kids to deal with. A little bit of puke, a little bit of sick wife. We fought through. We're here. We're ready to go. Big week ahead.
Yeah, we got rivalry week. We got Merced versus Golden Valley. We got Atwater against Buhack, boys and girls. Los Banos against Pacheco. A little bit of everything. But before we get to that, here's the sights and sounds from last week.
All right, let's start off with the boys' side this week. Big week for Golden Valley. They got to go to Turlock on the road, and then they're going to play Merced. Kind of sitting at 2-1 right now. We're going to find out where they fall in the pecking order a little bit, going up against the two favorites, I guess.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting week. You got Turlock sitting at 3-0. They had knocked off Merced last week in kind of the battle of the teams we kind of predicted to be there, 1-2. And then they host Merced on Friday. So a big week for them. They're 2-1. Had a chance of being 3-0. They led Atwater, I think, by 6 points going into the fourth quarter. But Atwater was able to battle back. I think Atwater scored the final 8 points of the game. Big win for Atwater. Snaps the long losing streak they had to Golden Valley, 28 games that they had lost to them in a row. It's pretty amazing when you think about it, going back to 2003. When you think of, the seniors on these teams were probably 4 or 5 years old when last time Atwater had beaten Golden Valley.
That is a pretty amazing stat right there. The kids seem pretty pleased, and Atwater did a better job executing down the stretch. They're now 1-2. Talk about their week ahead, I guess. That they now have Merced, and then they got Buhack. Figure they got to go at least 500 this week to remain in that fight. Looks like it's going to be 5 teams probably with Pittman in the mix fighting for those 3 playoff spots. What have you seen from Atwater? What do you like for them this week?
Well, I like the way they got off the deck. They started off 0-2. They got blown out by Turlock. They didn't play well at Pittman. And to fight Golden Valley back, that game goes down to the end. Big 3-pointers by Kyle Anaya and Deshaun Allison late that kind of spurred Atwater down the stretch. And then for them to win that game, for that game to be big, they got to do something this week. And that means, going to Merced, maybe upsetting them, and then beating Buhack. If you can get to 3-2, you still got a shot. But even at 2-3, they're still in play probably for one of the 3 playoff spots. Probably not going to catch the teams on top for a league title, but they'll still be in, still have a chance for postseason.
Let's talk Merced a little bit. They go on the road. They lose to Turlock. It was closer game than a year ago where they just got flat out blown out at Turlock. Thing about, I've seen Merced 3 or 4 times now. The one consistent thing I know from that team is they're going to have one bad quarter. And that entire game's dictated on whether what they do in the other 3 can compensate for what happens in that one bad quarter. Last week, it was the 3rd quarter that they couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, just went ice cold from the field, couldn't make baskets left and right. They did a nice job defensively keeping them in that. It was really only a 4-point lead for a while, and then they gave up 2 late buckets in the last minute of the 3rd quarter that kind of made it an 8-point game, and they never got much closer than that the rest of the way.
And then Friday night, you look at it, they lose to Turlock. That game at home against Pittman's a game they have to win.
Yeah.
They're going to stay in contention, and they had to pull out double overtime to do it. Just talk about how important that win was and what they were able to finally do in that second overtime to avoid disaster there.
Yeah, I mean, the 3rd quarter of that game, ironically, was, I felt, the quintessential Merced team. Like, that's what got them to the semifinals a year ago. They turned up the pressure defensively. They got out in transition, and they attacked. They weren't settling. They weren't running, 35 seconds off the shot clock every possession. They weren't settling for long 3-pointers. They were going to the basket. They got themselves a lead, and then all of a sudden, midway through the 4th quarter and in that first overtime, they completely got away from that, and it just seemed like the group got really conservative again. So it was good to see Alonzo Gilliam and Travis Pazin kind of attacked the basket first 3 possessions of the second overtime. They got a 9-point lead from it, and they never looked back.
Yeah, and struggled from the free throw line trying to close that one out.
Yeah, they'd done a good job getting to the free throw line and getting fouled all game, and they'd made their shots, and then all of a sudden in double overtime they go 1 for 10 to start double OT from the free throw line. Keeping things competitive, but you always got to give your coach a challenge, so there's something for Hector to work on in practice, although he claims that they do more free throws than pretty much any team out there.
So here's what our CCC boys looks like through the first 3 games. You got Turlock 3-0, Merced and Golden Valley are both 2-1, Atwater and Pittman 1-2, I believe, and then Buac at 1-3. So let's look at the rivalry game. I mean, first you got Merced Atwater on Wednesday. That's going to be a big matchup, and Golden Valley against Turlock. Obviously, I think Turlock there's got the edge against Golden Valley being at home, but what does Golden Valley have to do to kind of have a shot there in the 4th quarter? You've seen Turlock, and I know you haven't seen Golden Valley much, but...
Well, I went out to Golden Valley practice and talked to Keith Hunter about it, and he flat out said if they rebound, he thinks they got a good chance of being in that game. Turlock probably does have the 2 most prolific rebounders in the league, in Cook and the Habib kid. So if they can go out and they can keep them off of the offensive glass and steal a few offensive rebounds, Hunter likes their chances of pulling one out on the road. If they get this win, how important then does that Golden Valley Merced game become?
Oh, it's going to be huge. I think you got Merced against Atwater. Again, this is a chance for Merced to protect their home turf. They got to win these games at home. Yeah. And then you try and split on the road. So if Merced can take care of Atwater and you got Merced at 3-1, Golden Valley, let's say they're either 3-1, 3-2. Either way, it's going to be a huge game there. Because it either keeps Merced up there keeping pace with Turlock, or they're going to fall a couple games behind Turlock depending on what happens on Wednesday night. Yeah. But Merced Golden Valley, the way either team play, I think it's going to be a close game, especially at Golden Valley. It's going to be a packed house. It's going to be a great atmosphere. And then it's just whoever plays better that night and whoever executes down the stretch.
Yeah, the loser of that game might see themselves fall off of the title race right then and there. Yeah, even talking to all the coaches, they pretty much unanimously agree there's no dominant team. Nobody's just running away with this. So the feeling is if you can take care of your games at home and then steal 1 or 2 on the road, you're going to be right there and have your chance for not just the playoffs, but for contending for the league title. So
yeah, and what Hunter alluded to, I think, is that you look at every team. there's not a lot of big teams in this league.
Yeah.
So whoever rebounds, whoever controls the board is going to have the advantage in the game. And the one team that does have that rebounding advantage right now is Turlock, and that's why they're 3-0. Keith Hunter stopped by to talk with Shawn Lynch about their big week this week. So here's what he had to say.
All right, we're out at Golden Valley High talking to boys head coach Keith Hunter. 2-1 to this point. You got to be pleased. Obviously, 3-0 would have been better, but you guys have had a solid showing and putting yourself in a good position through the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm very happy. Obviously, everybody would like to be 3-0, but what I'm really pleased about is that I think we're getting better. We struggled in December, a lot of games, no practice, and I thought we were going backwards for a while. So I see progress, especially with team chemistry and playing hard and playing together. So that's really what it's all about. And 2-1's great. We got a big week. You're right. Turlock Wednesday is the one we're thinking about, but Merced's Friday, and then we followed up at Pittman Wednesday. So it's probably our toughest 3-game stretch in league.
Last year you obviously had a very veteran team that they've basically been together for 3 years, the core of that group. How's this team, different, having guys that haven't necessarily had a great deal of experience in there?
Oh, it's just total opposite. Last year, we had guys who could play. We were walking the gym, I know we're going to score 60, 65. It's more worried about, are we going to share the ball? Are we going to do the things that we need to do? Different type of coaching. This year it's about teaching. Every game, every day, we're learning something new. We're trying to apply it to the games. It's totally different year, totally different personnel. And when you don't have the experience, you are teaching. You're trying to, we got 6 games left. Is that right? 6, 7 maybe? And we're still learning. We're not even close to getting it, if you will. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's where we're at right now. We're still teaching, still learning.
Obviously the competitor in you is going to want to win all the time, but is it nice as a coach to kind of mix it up and have different years like that and keep things fresh? Or
No. It's nice to win. It's fun to win. People talk about fun and use that word in different ways, but I find that this is all about the journey, and part of that journey and the process that we work on for success is ultimately winning some games. You can't go out and say I'm going to win. There's a process. We're still very, very early in that process of what it takes to win. But as a coach, you always I don't find any joy in not being on top. I'll be honest with you. But does that mean we can't find success? Even if we don't win. Some nights you've been around. There's talent wins most of the time.
Yeah.
And there's nights when you could do your absolute best, and if the other team does their absolute best, and they're better, they win. And I think you got to find some success in that. I think ultimately it is working as hard as you can and doing the best you can. So, for example, at Atwater the other night, it was not a time after the game where I'm upset. We played our hearts out. We had guys give tremendous individual efforts, tremendous team effort on certain plays, and we left with our heads held high. Congratulations to Atwater. They hit some big shots, and we didn't. And that's okay. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be upset, but if you're asking me about winning, I love winning. It's part of who I am.
It looks like it's probably going to be 5 teams battling it out for those 3 playoff spots in league. You said this is kind of a pivotal stretch, 3 really tough games in a row. How important is it to just kind of stay in the thick through this stretch and give yourself a fighting chance in the second half?
Our goal this year was realistic, and I think you got to set realistic goals, or else you cannot achieve them real quick, and the season could go. We want to make the playoffs. One thing we've done at Golden Valley is make the playoffs. We've done that many, many years, and so that's our goal. And what's that going to take? I'm not sure what the record is, but you'll have to be 3rd place in the league.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we got to go into this stretch and win all 3. I'm not even saying we got to win 2, but we do got to keep ourselves alive. And that's what we'll talk about before practice today. Understanding where we are and the opportunities that we have in relationship to our season goal, and what we have to do today and tomorrow to get ready for Turlock, which is a very tough place to play. It's always fun, good team, but our goal's still in hand, and that's what we're shooting for. And hopefully we're able to succeed and enjoy that.
A lot of new guys, contributing this year. A lot of new faces people might not be familiar with. Who are some of the key contributors on this team that have led you to this point?
Well, we got two guys that are back that played on last year's team with Isaac Daniel. Actually, three guys. Isaac Daniel is an outstanding athlete, running the point, playing a lot of minutes, and doing a real nice job for us, battling and leading. And then Lee McNeil has been doing a tremendous job. The game in Atwater the other day, he was phenomenal, chasing balls down, just beating guys to loose balls, and really played well. So those two guys really are the cornerstone or the leaders of our team. I think another guy that's back is Bobby Moore, who's contributing and just has a tremendous work ethic and just a solid young man. Then some juniors that run JV last year, like Colin Hayes, 6'2". He's still learning footwork, still not where it should be, and just the little things have to improve. But he sure does have a potential to be a pretty good player. He's got a nice touch for a 6'2", 6'3" kid, and he's a strong kid, works out hard. Andrew Bernal's there, Jermaine Ewing, some of those guys, and then a kid that hasn't played before, I think it's his first year playing, is Desmond Borden. He just gives us a ton of energy and rebounding. But when you haven't played before, there's little things you don't get, and so we battle those little things a lot. Because sometimes, success comes down to the little things. And that's where our battle is a lot of times.
All right, thank you very much, and good luck this week.
Thank you, Shawn. You guys have a great day.
All right, let's turn our attention to the girls' side, and again back to the CCC. If you had to pick a team of the week last week, it had to be Golden Valley. They kind of just ran away from Buhack Colony in a game that we thought was going to be much closer, and then they get the big one on Thursday against Atwater in kind of an ugly game. But they were able to get past the Falcons without Camille Flores being able to play. So a big week for Golden Valley, going 2-0 and sets them up for a big showdown with Merced on Thursday.
Yeah, I mean they got the two more kids clicking. They got they were even missing kids. I think you said Camille Flores didn't play one of the games. She was sick. They're a much deeper team, and you watch the highlights that we have of them from the last few games. The way they go about executing their offense, they look like a completely different team than the one we've seen the last few years. So Thiessen's got to be pleased. There's obviously no let up. They got to deal with Merced, and I think we get the impression at this point in time that that's the one that's likely going to decide the league title right now.
Or at least give whoever wins that game is going to be in the driver's seat. But Merced's got to get past Atwater on Tuesday night. I don't think that's going to give me a gimme. Atwater plays everybody tough, and they really made things difficult for Golden Valley, and Golden Valley wasn't able to kind of break open a lead until the fourth quarter. And I think Merced, you look at their games against Pittman on Thursday night, I think this could be a close game Tuesday night.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about it before. Atwater does what Atwater does. Nobody dictates anything to Atwater. They're going to muck it up defensively. They're going to get you out of what you like to do, and they're going to do their best to get out in transition and get some easy buckets that way, because they're not the highest scoring team. Huge week for Atwater, though. I mean, this is basically either going to keep them in the race or maybe have them on the outside of the playoffs looking in, because first they got Merced and then they're going to host Buhack, and that one's going to be a huge game, possibly, depending on what goes down between Atwater and Merced.
Yeah, let's say Atwater somehow loses to Merced on Tuesday, then you got Buhack and Atwater squaring off, both teams 2-2. That's basically possibly for that third playoff spot. Right. So it becomes an extremely important game. Turning our attention to Merced, you talk about the Pittman game. They're down 17.5. Somehow they're able to come back. A miracle play by Lexi Thompson at the end of the play for a 4-point play to help send it to overtime with 7 seconds left. Then Lexi Thompson and Simone Gilliam both fell out in overtime, and they're still able to win. So very fortunate that Merced was able to get out of that. Talking to Rob Pierce and even Lexi Thompson after the game, they kind of felt like they stole in there, maybe won a game that they weren't supposed to, just because of the way they played.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the week before. Like, Coach Pierce has not been pleased with the energy from the get-go, and it almost bit them. They found themselves down at the half. It was kind of a Herculean-type performance from Lexi Thompson. Would you go for 31 points, something like that?
High 31.
Yeah, to scrape and claw their way back into that game. That's not going to work against teams like Atwater and Buhack and the rest of the league. So they're going to have to be a little more consistent from from the get-go and really give the entire effort if they're going to defend their championship, especially against a Golden Valley team that's going to keep coming at you.
So let's talk about the matchup on Thursday. Who do you like in Merced, Golden Valley?
I haven't actually seen the Golden Valley girls yet. I think they're playing the best basketball, but I feel like at this point in time you give the nod to Merced. They've been there before. They're the defending champs, and until somebody knocks them off, it's still that way.
Yeah, I mean, the two teams met earlier this year with Merced winning. Obviously, that was without Stephanie Moore. But if you're looking at the way they're playing now, I think Golden Valley is playing more solid. They're not turning the ball over as much as Merced, and I think they're running their offense better. And they got some scoring options in both Moore sisters and Camille Flores. I think if the key is going to be their bigs, Golden Valley's bigs, if they can convert.
Yeah, I think they definitely have a size advantage.
Underneath, I think you give the edge to Golden Valley. If they're missing those shots and they allow Merced to kind of get out and transition and get some easy baskets, then I like Merced in that one.
Interesting to see how Matt Thiessen defends Lexi in that game too. He historically comes up with some pretty creative defensive plans for other teams' stars, and Merced's struggled at times, kind of getting her open.
Matt Thiessen's ducking us. He reached out for an interview and he turned you down. Apparently he was sick too.
That poor guy sounded like he was on his deathbed. I felt bad that he was going to go out and coach tonight.
Livingston girls off to a 4-0 start. They got an interesting matchup with Patterson later on this week, another 4-0 team in the WAC, so a good start for Livingston.
Yeah, I mean, Patterson's really been crushing people in that league, the way you look at their scores, so it's a real good test. They got to go on the road for the first one, so we'll see what Livingston's made of. They got to host Central Valley tonight first. They take care of business there. It could be two 5-0 teams meeting.
And another boys team that's off to a strong start, Mariposa. They've won 7 straight, and they're 5-0 in the Southern League.
Yeah, you saw them in the ABC tournament. You were very impressed with them, and done nothing but play good, solid basketball since then.
Yeah, they look like the team to beat in the Southern League, and if they can win out, they didn't get a good draw last year. After
Southern League did not earn them a lot of respect, for sure.
So we'll see what kind of seed they'll get when the playoffs come around this year. But that's going to do it for our show this week. Some big games, some big rivalry games. So it should be some interesting basketball this week.